Good evening, folks, and welcome to Radio Eternity. I am your host, Jeffrey, and this is your home for smooth tunes and tall tales, beaming directly into your noggin from out of the void. How are you doing out there? I hope you're all okay, wherever you are and whatever you're up to. One of the first memories I can recall would be around 3 years old. I was living with my family in an old ramshackle house at the time, although I can remember next to nothing about the house itself or the room in which this memory took place. I just remember that everything seemed really big back then, of course. I was in bed, gazing up at the light bulb hanging from the ceiling, when from out of it came a thing. I don't know if any of you can remember the Mr. Men series of books. Well, this thing was like one of those. It was yellow and semicircular in shape. It had large moony discs for eyes, a round fuzzy green nose, a wide mouth, fixed in a grin. It was wearing a purple bowler hat, had red shoes on the end of stubby legs, white gloves on the end of stubby arms, and was slowly floating down towards me on the end of a black umbrella. I watched this thing glide towards me, its eyes fixed on me, grinning away, until it landed on the bed. Now, being a young child, I was quite unnerved by this, so I did what children do, and stuck my tongue out at it. The thing frowned, its grin vanishing. It opened its mouth, and it was all long, thick, crooked teeth. And that's it. That's all. But this has stuck with me. When I was able to communicate what I'd seen to my parents, I was so unwilling to admit that I might have dreamt it, that the accepted explanation was a trick of the light, as passing cars flashed their headlights through the windows. And then, when I was much older, I could finally accept that it was perhaps just a dream. But that's the thing. The image of it, the memory of it has never gone away. It keeps coming back to me, so that 40-odd years later, with it still so vividly burnt into my brain, I'm not entirely convinced that it was a dream at all. Then, years later, as a teenager, experiencing first love, I would visit my girlfriend who lived in the next street over and spend the evening with her, doing what teenagers do who are in love. Late in the evening, after her parents had gone to bed, I would sneak out of her bedroom and quietly leave the house to wander back to my own. There was a shortcut to get back to my folks' place, which it led me across a piece of wild and overgrown parkland and along a small dirt path. There were no streetlights, of course, and the way was dark and slightly scary. From very early on, as I walked this path of a night, I would hear, following close behind, the patter of paws. In my head, I could picture it, a huge black dog just behind me. But every time I turned around, it wasn't there. Nevertheless, he would follow me every time I walked home, this huge creature that I never caught a glimpse of. And I realised after a while that it wasn't a threat at all. In fact, this huge dog was protecting me. And I called him George. And George protected me for a long time until that young relationship ended, and I had no reason to walk that dark path anymore. That was the last time I heard him. I really wish George was around right now. I wouldn't even say no to the little yellow fella, to be perfectly honest. You're listening to Radio Eternity, and the theme for this evening is, up until now, unclear. For those of you who listened to the last show, you will recall that we spoke to the ship's counsellor and that he expressed a wish to appear on the next broadcast. I have a sneaky suspicion that he has a bone to pick with me. But before we get to the counsellor, let's hear some music. This is the Everly Brothers with Down in the Willow Garden.
Down in the willow garden, where me and my love did meet, love fell off to sleep. I had a bottle of burgundy wine. My love she did not know. So I poisoned that dear little girl on the banks below. I drew a saber through her. It was a bloody knife. I threw her in the river, which was a dreadful sight. My father often told me that money would set me free if I would murder that dear little girl whose name was Rose Connolly. My father sits at his cabin door, wiping his tear-dimmed eyes, for his only son soon shall walk to yonder scaffold high. My race is run beneath the sun. The scaffold now waits for me, for I did murder that dear little girl whose name was Rose Connolly.
The hauntingly beautiful Everly Brothers there. And now we are joined by our first guest for this show, the ship's counsellor, of course. Counsellor, how are you? Thank you for joining us.
Yes, how are you, Jeffrey?
Oh, I'm okay, counsellor. Nothing much to complain about, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, you expressed a wish to talk to us. What would you like to talk about?
Talk to us?
Yes, counsellor. Myself and the listeners.
Well, Jeffrey, there are actually a number of things I would like to discuss with you.
Mm-hmm.
But let's get to the crux of the matter. Are you familiar with the term delusional disorder?
More or less, counsellor. You did bring it up on the last show, but perhaps you could explain it for everyone at home.
Very well. Delusional disorder is a type of serious mental illness, often called psychosis, in which a person cannot tell what is real from what is imagined.
Mm-hmm.
As the name suggests, the main feature of this disorder is the presence of delusions, an unshakable belief in something untrue.
Right, I see.
Although in itself quite rare, it usually occurs in mid to late life. Sufferers often can continue to socialize and function quite normally and generally do not behave in an obviously odd or bizarre manner.
Right, yeah.
And of course, there are different types of delusions: jealous, persecutory, somatic. But what I like to focus on for today's purposes are two types of delusion. Namely, erotomanic, where the sufferer believes that they have formed a bond with someone famous of a great importance and that of grandiose, where one has an overinflated sense of self-worth and might believe that he or she has a great talent.
Sure.
Does any of this sound familiar, Jeffrey?
Familiar?
Does it ring a bell?
In what sense?
Can you relate to anything that I have just said to you?
Well, naturally, I can't relate, counsellor, but I can certainly empathise. I mean, it sounds bloody awful.
Jeffrey, how old are you?
Oh, well, I'm no spring chicken, counsellor. I'll be 44 this year.
And what is it that you do?
Do?
Yes, Jeffrey, do.
Well, like all of us here, counsellor, I'm stuck. I'm stuck on this station, drifting through space, and from time to time, I broadcast my radio show for my listeners.
Your listeners?
Yes.
Who are your listeners, Jeffrey?
Who are they? Well, they are the people out there listening. All right, Councillor, I think I get where you're going with this. Granted, they have no way of giving me feedback. I don't know if they are there. I don't know if they're listening, but I have faith and I have belief. And with that, I feel I have a duty, not only as a radio DJ, but as an entertainer, to entertain, let's say.
Aided by an onboard computer that you have decided to refer to as Mother.
Yes.
Jeffrey, you are very unwell. What you believe to be reality is nothing but a fiction. And the more that I observe you, the more I see your grip on reality slipping away. You have become a danger to yourself and the others here, who, for whatever reason, pander to your delusion, and I am here to put you straight. I am here to wipe the fog from your eyes.
I'm sorry, Kent. Well, actually, no, I'm not sorry. What possible danger do I pose to anyone? We are all in the same boat here, and if I choose to use my time telling a few tales and playing lovely music, regardless of whether people are listening or not, I see nothing wrong with that.
Sorry.
And sorry, Kent, on that note, I think it's high time we heard another song. Here's a personal favourite of mine.
Now believe me when I tell you that my song is really true. I want everyone to listen and believe it's about some little people from a long time ago, and all the things the neighbors didn't know. Early in the morning, Daddy Dinky went to work, selling lamps and chairs to San Bernardino squares, and I still remember Mama with her apron and her pad, feeding all the boys at Ed's Cafe. Whizzing and pasting and pooting through the day, Ronnie helping, Kenny helping burn his boots away. All the while on a shelf in the shed, Kenny's little creatures on display. Ronnie says his Noomies on a window in his room, a marvel to be seen, dysentery green, while Kenny and his buddies had a game out in the back. Let's make the water turn black. We see them after school in a world of their own. To some it might seem creepy what they do. The neighbors on the right sat and watched them every night. I bet you'd do the same if they was you. Whizzing and pasting and pooting through the day, Ronnie helping, Kenny helping burn his boots away. And all the while on a shelf in the shed, Kenny's little creatures on display. Ronnie's in the army now and Kenny's taking pills. Oh, how they yearn to see a bomber burn. Color flashing, thunder crashing, dynamite machine. Wait till the fire turns green. Wait till the fire turns green. Wait till the fire turns green.
This would be a little bit of vocal teenage heaven right here on Earth.
The one and only Frank Zappa with the mothers there. And during the break, the counsellor and I continued talking, and he has very clearly told me that I'm living in a dream world of my own creation. I'll be perfectly honest, counsellor. I find that a bit offensive.
Jeffrey, you believe that you are a charming little radio DJ running a charming little radio station in space where you regale a small but adoring public with charming little stories of your past. You believe that you are developing a budding relationship with David Bowie. Jeffrey!
I resent what you're implying, and I believe that David and myself have a deep understanding, counsellor.
Can you not hear how ridiculous you sound?
No, counsellor. No.
I'm not your counsellor. None of this is real. It's all a cruel and terrible joke. Even the words that came out of my mouth are not to be trusted. I cannot speak English, Jeffrey. Do you understand? I am given the script. I am given the words and I repeat them. Whose words? I don't know. Perhaps they are yours. It's all just so many lies.
Counsellor, you're really beginning to concern me.
Jeffrey, the truth is that we never left Earth. We are still here. There is no ship. We are not floating through the space. And the fact is that we are trapped here on Earth, part of some terrible experiment for reasons I no, not. And they are listening right now, Jeffrey, and they are watching.
Look, if what you're saying is true, Councillor, if for one moment I could even contemplate the possibility that what you suggest is true, that we are imprisoned, part of a horrendous experiment where we are forced to perform, where we have no control, not even over what we say, then I choose my reality. I choose my fantasy. I choose the stories and the songs and the listeners because it gives me great joy and happiness. I choose radio.
Jeffrey, Counselor, please forgive the interruption, but we are receiving an incoming call from Valentina Tereshkova.
It's not true, Jeffrey. Don't listen to them.
Please, Councillor, that's enough. Sorry, Mother. Did you say Valentina Tereshkova?
Yes, Jeffrey.
As in the first woman in space?
Yes, Jeffrey. That's correct.
Please, Mother, put her through.
Hello, Jeffrey.
Wow. Hello, Valentina. What an extraordinary pleasure and honour to have you on the show.
The pleasure is all mine, Jeffrey. I've been a long-time listener, and I have to say that I'm a real fan.
Well, I mean, that means a lot coming from you, Valentina. I'm a little bit in shock. Where are you calling from?
A lot closer than you realize, Jeff. We on Earth have been aware of the plight of you and the crew for a real long time. It's taken us a hell of a lot longer than we wanted, but I was given the task to head out with all of the parts required to get that space station of yours back up and running. We are bringing you all home, Jeff.
Valentina, this is, it's incredible. I'm a bit overwhelmed, to be honest.
Well, you better get over it quick, Jeff. Tell the crew to look out of the right side portal. I'm sure you can see us already.
Sorry, Valentina, did I hear correctly? You did say us. Is there someone else with you?
Oh, right. New equipment wasn't the only thing I brought with me. Say hello, David.
Hi, Joff. David Boy here.
Oh my God, David, how are you? It's been such a long time since we heard your voice.
Alles in Ordnung, Joff. Es gab ein paar Momente, in denen ich dachte, dass ich es vielleicht nicht schaffen würde, aber dann kommt Valentina einfach vorbei und naja.
And I have to tell you, Jeff, David has been the perfect guest. Listen, I'm about to start the last docking maneuvers, but before I do, I've been so excited about being on the show. Can I read a little something?
Of course, Valentina. It would be a pleasure.
Great. So here's a bit of a poem from John Gillespie Magee. Oh, I have slipped the surly bonds of earth and danced the skies on laughter-silvered wings. Sunward I've climbed and joined the tumbling mirth of sun-split clouds, and done 100 things you have not dreamed of. Wheeled and soared and swung high in the sunlit silence. Hovering there, I've chased the shouting wind along and flung my eager craft through footless halls of air. Up the long delirious burning blue, I've topped the wind-swept heights with easy grace, where never lark or ever eagle flew. And while, with silent lifting mind, I've trod the high untrespassed sanctity of space, put out my hand and touched the face of God.
Valentina, that was beautiful. Thank you.
Sure. Anyway, I'm going to get on with it. We'll be with you in the next 5 minutes or so, and I leave you with David.
Thanks, Valentina. David, you don't know how relieved we all are to know that you're still with us, right?
Ja.
Ja, ich freue mich auch, Joff. Aber hör mal zu, ich hatte die Zeit hier draußen, um mir ein kleines Lied auszudenken. Während Valentina anlegt, dachte ich, wir könnten es vielleicht zusammen singen. Ich habe die Notizen auch schon an Mother geschickt.
David, it will be a dream come true.
Okay, dann lass es uns versuchen.
Don't mind the rain or the rolling sea, the weary nights never worried me, but the hardest time in a sailor's day is to watch the sun as it dies away. Here's one more day on the gray funnel line. The finest ship that sails the sea is still a prison for the likes of me. But give me wings like Noah's dove, and I'll fly up harbor to the one I love. Here's one more day on the gray funnel line. Oh Lord, if dreams were only real, then I'd feel my hands on that wooden wheel, and with all my heart I turn around and tell the boys that we're homeward bound. Here's one more day on the gray funnel line.
Thank you, David.
Es war mir ein Vergnügen, Geoff. Okay, Valentina winkt mir zu, also legen wir wohl jede Sekunde an. Ich höre mal besser mit dem Anruf auf und wir sehen uns sehr bald.
Great. Well, I guess we'll also finish the show off there, folks. So myself and the crew can welcome our new guests. But what a show it was. The crew, myself, and good old George by my side are definitely looking forward to the next one. And who knows? If everything goes to plan, the next time you hear from us, we'll be back on it.
Emergency! Emergency! We have experienced a major collision. All crew members are to suit up as quickly as possible. I repeat, emergency. Can anybody hear me? Jeffrey, can you hear me? Come in, Jeffrey. Come in, Jeffrey. Jeffrey, can you hear me? Jeffrey, can...